Can you pull up the odds for Nico Iamaleava and the Heisman Trophy? Of which I have
I have to do it. I have to do it on my phone because because of the location rules and things like that.
Okay, go right ahead.
So
He's going to pull. Caleb's going to pull that up. Nico's Heisman odds. What are they? And I think that we need to. Caleb and I were both very high. He was higher on Nico than I was, but I think we need to address the fact that Nico, it might not be possible for him to be a true Heisman candidate with the way Tennessee is going to play some games. I think that Nico's going to get plenty of shots downfield throughout the season. But there might be a Georgia game or an Alabama game that they try to win like they did on Saturday against Oklahoma with conservative play calling and a very aggressive defense. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think Nico would tell you he'd rather get to the college football playoff than he would win a Heisman Trophy. So let me ask you this question: is how much of your thoughts on Nico winning the Heisman changed, Caleb, now that we've seen Tennessee's offense not look very hypo-like?
Well, every dime you give me for Quincy's college fund is going more to add to my bet on Nico winning the Heisman at the end of the year. So that's how much it's changed.
So you're still in.
Still in. Guys, Nico, Vegas is not letting up. As a matter of fact, Vegas keeps moving in the direction of Nico each week. Nico is now 4th on the Heisman list. You want to know the 3 ahead of him?
Yes.
Cam Ward, number 1. I can't debate that with what he's done so far. Jackson Dart, number 2.
Okay, he's the best player over Cam Ward, but go ahead.
Jalen Milroe, number 3.
Okay, he's not going to be there at the end of the year, I don't think.
Jalen Milroe is not going to be there. Ole Miss is going to Ole Miss probably, which you and I both agree, Dave. What does Ole Miss do with Lane Kiffin? They blow out everybody that's not a team ranked higher than them. And then when they face a team ranked higher than them, they look awful.
Okay.
And I think so once they lose their key games, that'll hurt Jackson Dart. So it could come down to Nico and Cam Ward. And what if Tennessee is 12-0, what we talked about earlier? You don't think doing that in the SEC will matter more than what Cam Ward did at Miami? And so the question then becomes, will the offense find its groove? Well, people who are significantly lower on the offense than I am, not that they're low, but they don't believe the hype I have bought into with Nico, still think the offense is going to get it figured out. I mean, Jimmy Hyams was on our show yesterday, Dave, and he said that as the season goes on, the offense is going to look more like the 2022 offense. Well,
yeah. Okay. A couple things. He's assuming that and I think I'm not putting words in Jimmy's mouth. I mean, he's assuming the offensive tackles are going to get healthy, right?
Yes, which I think they will.
Yeah, so we think they will. But I'm going to say no. I don't think he's a true Heisman candidate because Josh Heupel is a better coach than Lane Kiffin. Because Josh Heupel can win in more ways than Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin may be a better offensive mind. That is up for debate. I think him and Heupel are right up at the top. But Josh Heupel is a better overall coach. Lane Kiffin is just paying players that he's seen do it in college. Heupel's done some evaluating and development. The two approaches are very different. And at the end of the day, if you lose a game somewhere along the way that you shouldn't, your team is more likely to become fractured the way Kiffin did it than Heupel. So I'm not comparing them as head coaches. I'd take Heupel. But the offensive minds are pretty equal. Josh Heupel is going to be more than willing to win a game 20-10 if that's the way the game unfolds. And I listened to his press conference yesterday, and he said every game ends up unfolding in some particular fashion. So let's say, for instance, that Tennessee did not get the ball right back after those 2 turnovers, and Oklahoma is up 10 points in the first half, which is very doable, right? When you have 2 strip sacks.
Yes, definitely.
Well, I think what Josh Heupel would have done in that situation is gone 12 personnel, 2 tights, and he would have challenged Oklahoma's cornerbacks about double the amount of times he did, which I think was just about 4. So I think he would have been aggressive down the field. But I think if he gets in a situation where he feels like, hey, I can slow the game down, which is that many fewer snaps that an offensive lineman can get hurt. If I can slow the game down, it may hurt my offensive stats, which I think he's loved too much at the past at times, but it can win him a championship. So as much as he loves Nico, he's going to love a championship more. Caleb, so I no longer think that he's a realistic Heisman candidate. And by that, I say you end up in New York, which can be 3, can be 5 people, depends on how the voting goes. So I'm not so sure that I believe that anymore.
I still think he is. And I think he's going to, again, it was a different type of flow of game against Oklahoma. There were going to be points where they have to air it out with Nico this year. There's going to be times where teams turn it into a shootout. And I think there will be, in those moments, you're going to need Nico to step up. And I think he will. And remember this. Let's go back to 2022 for a minute. Let's just ask this question. If the South Carolina debacle doesn't happen, Hendon Hooker's not only in New York, he's the favorite to win the Heisman, right?
Oh, I wouldn't say favorite. I've thought that through my head, and I would have probably had him second that year, but certainly in the discussion. Now, let me flip that back on you. Does his success hurt Nico because you could be a product of the system?
No, because Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray both won Heisman's back-to-back years for Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma, and then Caleb Williams won it for Lincoln Riley at USC. So people haven't really said, oh, it's Lincoln Riley. They still go, oh, production is what it does. I mean, in the 90s, Shane Matthews' success didn't stop them from voting Danny Warfel as the Heisman winner. So in 96. So I don't think that's going to have that much of an effect. That could hurt. I think that hurts you more with your NFL drafts status than it does your ability to win the Heisman. I see what you're saying with Heupel, but I just think the flow of the game has been such that they haven't needed Nico to put up big yards yet. It's almost he's methodically consistently had like a 200 to 250 yard game, a touchdown or two there. It's just kind of odd, but Vegas again is seeing what I'm seeing. And they're seeing a guy who's leading the number 1 scoring offense, top 5 scoring offense at least, top 10 scoring defense is helping out, but leading a top 5 scoring offense that is the quarterback that is going to have more chances to air it out, that's getting better as the season goes on, that's developing with his receivers, that now has a bye week and is going to come out next week playing. I mean, Dave, the next 2 games after this, Arkansas and Florida, 2 not very good defenses. And I think that Josh Heupel is going to use that to let Nico just air it out. Alabama, what happens if Alabama's a game where he could get locked in a shootout, just like 2022? Let's be honest, Dave. You take out the Alabama game of 2022. Hendon Hooker stats don't look Heisman worthy that much, but it was that you get locked in a shootout and you have a chance to throw 5 or 6 touchdowns and it changes everything.
Okay, so the Heisman Trophy has not been very nice to Tennessee on a couple of different occasions. Tennessee got snubbed. And this question, is Nico still a true Heisman candidate? Just about 50-50. Good job by Dave. And I'm going to throw it out there. Deep down, I want Nico to win the Heisman, or deep down, I still hate the Heisman. What do you think our fan base will say as the votes are tallied?
I think they'll say deep down they wanted to win the Heisman. They want hardware in Knoxville, but you know what I would do deep down? If I was Tennessee, I wouldn't say this out loud, but I'd wait till the day before the ceremony when I know all the votes are tallied, and then I wouldn't show up.
Oh, come on, Caleb. You can't avoid. I mean, these guys are running out there in a Morgan Wallen concert. They're not going to avoid that sort of publicity.
That's how put your billboard in New York. Spend money that weekend, take a giant billboard out on Times Square. Just make your face everywhere, but don't show up to accept the award. But you'll be the one named.
I mean, I do like the concept of, somebody cut them back hard. I remember, for those of you that don't know, I was suspended for the Alabama game one year. Because I refused to give up a source to the university that had me interview Inky Johnson over the phone. As it turned out, I was completely in the right. Got employee of the month and all that stuff. But anyway, you'll have to trust me. I was in the right. You can do your research if you'd like. But I do remember we had a discussion of how to respond to this. And obviously, you can't be a Knoxville paper and not cover Tennessee football, right?
Right, exactly.
One of the editors raised their hands. I've got an idea. Let's just call them and say that the News Sentinel is no longer going to cover your secondary non-revenue sports. Guess who that was?
Who?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
John Adams? Oh my gosh.
Would that not have been the greatest move ever?
To just not cover the other sports. Oh, that would have been hilarious.
Because it doesn't hurt your subscription base. They deserve to be covered, but you could argue that it's a bad business move to spend the hourly wage to send somebody over there. So I mean, I liked your idea of going back at them hard. I would do it like this. If Nico won it and he knew it, I would just first like to say this award goes to Johnny Majors and Peyton Manning as much as anybody.
Oh, that would be pretty epic.
That's better than not showing up.
Now I'm just thinking, John Adams, though, and I'd love him on to talk about this, but he was so bluffing. John Adams loved those trips that they get paid, that they sent him on to cover the Lady Vols, didn't he?
It's a good beat.
Yeah.
It's a good beat. There was Maui. There was a lot of other places.